So I'd like to introduce the two the two guests of today, Frank, old guy REI, and a recurring guest we have, Mikey, who is very popular and should create his own YouTube channel. Um, so before we start anything, I'm famous for not doing plugs. So Frank, go ahead and do your plug for your channel, even though it's right there. Just go ahead and do it.
Yeah, thanks, Jack. It's great to be with you. Yeah, we started the Old Guy REI YouTube channel of probably 6 months ago or so. Just started out documenting our journey in real estate investing to try to help people who are getting started themselves, documenting our mistakes and our lessons. So hopefully it's helpful. We're on YouTube, Facebook. We're in the school community with Zuber and on Instagram too.
And Mikey, is there any way that you'd like them to contact you?
Follow Old Guy REI. That is my one request because I like supporting people and also Jack's Business Talk and Financial Firefighter and all the other REI Avengers and ORAT. I just like supporting all these channels because they really help us a lot.
All right, well, that will lead in today's topic. Why we failed and should we give up real estate? The 5 years of suck and when it ends. We're gonna do this in the ORAC community style. We'll start with Frank, and then I'll be last just because I'm, for those who can't see, I'm there and Frank is there. So I'll end. Frank can start, but when it ends. So Frank, do you want to start us?
Yeah, of course. Um, so we hear the guys talk about the first 5 years of real estate investing sucking or being very, very challenging. And I think if you know any of our story, we tried to get started in real estate investing back in 2007 and 8, and that was the wrong time to try it, and especially without any education on the right way to do it. So we ended up losing a couple properties that we purchased back then, and we pulled equity out of our primary. So we had a higher mortgage after it was all said and done. We went through bankruptcy in 2010. And in 2019, we started educating ourselves again and found Bigger Pockets. And from there, we found Zuber and everybody that we follow today, all of our mentors today. So we've been on our second journey now since 2020. And we're waiting for the 5 years of suck to be over. We're now just finishing up our third year buying properties. So that's where we started.
So
And
do you
and
want
that's
to, if I ask you a question and I know the answer for my story, so reverse the question to me whenever it's my turn. Um, do you think that the 5 years of suck is all for each time, or do you think it's independent based upon the property, or do you think it's based upon your initials or your secondary start dates?
we've had discussions about that before. And the first 5 years sucking, some people might think that that 5 years starts over with each new property that you purchase. But I think a few of us in the group had come to the conclusion that the first 5 years of being a real estate investor, um, that first 5 years is what matters, because at the end of the first 5 years, doesn't matter how many more properties you purchase, each one is going to get better. Each new one is going to be better than the last one. And all the challenges that you're going through in the first 5 years are going to benefit you after that 5 year period. So I don't think if you bought one in 2020 and the 5 years is over in 2025, then you bought a couple more in between. That's not going to extend the 5 years because of the experience you gained in your first 5 years.
Okay. All right, so Mikey, you're the youngest in the investment community, or at least between the three of us, in the 5 years of sucky Crocomo type of stuff. But almost just says something funny. I could hear Cynthia laughing upstairs. But anyway, so what is your what is your impression of the first 5 years of Sucky?
If no one had told me beforehand that the 5 years of suck is a thing, what I'm going through now, I don't know how forward looking I'd be. I would just feel so kind of overwhelmed with everything that's going on because what I thought I got into with a turnkey ended up not being turnkey. It was a lot of repairs with interior doors and also plumbing issues, and now going through an eviction and then switching property management. So it's been it's quite a journey with this one. But I've still just listened to everyone and having the support of Frank's accountability groups and all the school and everything else that's out there. That's really kind of kept me going, even though I've been kind of going through all these obstacles right now.
So how would you? I know that you just threw a lot at us, and we could probably create another episode out of everything that you said. So how would you say that? How do you handle the difficult moments? Like, I mean, if you guys are okay, maybe we'll add an addition to the circle of gloom and doom here that we're trying to prepare to Zoom. But how do you prepare, or how do you brace yourself, mentally prepare yourself as you know that the stuff is coming to you? How do you handle all that?
I try to keep notes as much as I can, but when I'm buying the second one, when I'm buying the third one, and then I've talked with Dion about this, it's kind of like every purchase, there's something gonna be different that's gonna happen. And I didn't really expect that because I try to think that I'm organized, but as I'm going through this process, I'm realizing there's always going to be surprises. So in the longer game of the chessboard, I feel like I'm only a pawn and I only can make pawn moves right now. And I think hopefully as years and years go on and that compounding goes on, I'll be able to maybe go from a pawn to, the next knight or bishop, or, you know, hopefully level up one step at a time.
Okay. So what do you feel that in order to be a knight or a bishop in a chess pawn would in detail, like in your mind, there's no wrong answer, no pressure, just, you know.
I think just more time and more learning and, just being in groups like this, communities like this, hearing from other people's experiences. And I'm just trying to soak everything up. It does feel like a lot, but if I can just get one information and hold that in my mind, and then as the years go on, hopefully I can stack on that. And, like how they talk about skill stacking and just note stacking and everything I can to just level up. That's what, and there's nothing more powerful than being in groups like this because everyone is, going at their own pace, but they can all contribute in how we level up. So that's what I'm most looking forward to as my journey continues to grow, and hopefully the bumps will get less rocky as the years go on.
So you let me into something, and if you're done, I'll just go ahead and take my turn afterwards. So you done?
Oh yeah, I'm finished.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and take my turn, but you led me into a thought. So I was thinking the other day at work, I was like, because someone else messaged me in the ORAC community that's going to the event here in February 15th through the 17th, I believe. Am I correct in saying that?
It's President's Day weekend. I believe it's the 15th and 16th.
15th and 16th. Yeah. But anyway, someone was asking me, they're like, who are you most excited to meet? Are you most excited to meet this person, this person, this person, this person? I was like, and I told them flat out, I was like, the people I'm most excited to meet, I was like, there's three people I'm really excited to meet. And I was like, and one of them doesn't have a YouTube channel. It's like the top three people on my list is Mark, financial firefighter, Frank, old guy REI, and Mikey. I was like, those are my top three people that I want to meet in Las Vegas. The best friends the best friends you have are the ones you haven't met yet.
Mhm.
So, with that being said, I'll talk about my experience with the 5 years of suck. The worst part of the 5 years, the first part of the 5 years experience was Franklin Street, when I had an apartment go vacant for 9 months, and the downstairs went vacant as well, so it wasn't paying for itself. And apartment that we've nicknamed Buffalo Street wasn't able to, at that point, it wasn't like Franklin, where Franklin by itself could pay for Buffalo, but Buffalo could not pay for Franklin and the mortgage payments and everything else and the overhead. So it needed a ton of renovations because I was just having tenant turnover after tenant turnover after tenant turnover. Everything from the bathroom needed remodeled, the whole place needed repainted, lights needed updated, knob and tube wiring as far as the lights went upstairs. It needed a complete remodel in the upstairs units. The downstairs was the only place I was actually keeping it money. And the depression set forth in the fact that I just got tired. I got sore. I hurt every day. I was hurting physically, mentally. I just got tired of it. And doing all this work by myself, because I couldn't afford any contractors and stuff. And it just drug on and on and on. And that was just in the first 2 months. And the person that left it left in a complete pigsty. Like it was, I'm 5'10", and some of the garbage piles were up to my hip, and I have longer legs. So we're talking about 4 foot high garbage piles of just chicken bones and pop cans and just video games and just garbage. Dealing with that, dealing with the flooring, dealing with everything that needed to be updated to get people to want to see it, because the colors of the walls were like this morning glory color that you would pee in a toilet. It was just a horrible. No one looked at that place in the aspect of it being a long-term rental property. So when I finally took control of it this time, I was trying to make all the improvements. But after like 2 or 3 months, I got so depressed that I couldn't handle it anymore. Just dealing with all the work and just constantly, because I just got done with Buffalo Street, where I was sleeping on the floors doing a remodel after working 12 hours. You go there and you work there for 4 or 5, 6 hours and you fall asleep on the floor, and then you go back to work after. Once you wake up, you get showered and you go back to your regular job and come back and work again. But the point I'm trying to make in all this long rant is that Cynthia made a comment to me, and I don't even know if she'll remember it. You either need to hunker down, do this, and accept the fact that you're going to be a landlord, and this is what you're signing up for, and to being a landlord and a real estate investor, or you need to accept the fact that you're going to work 40 years for the rest of your life and live off and try to survive off of 401k. It is either you're going to commit now to the suffering, or you could commit later when you have nothing. And that's my story of Franklin. And I quickly got it renovated and rented out, and everything's been hunky dory ever since.
How long did it take you to get it stabilized?
100%. It's still not stabilized. I got all the interior stuff done. Next year I'm planning on trying to do the 2-tier retaining wall and the roof. And honestly, after that, I know it's like 30 more K. It'll be 100% stabilized, and there's no reason why I should second guess myself. Now, the one thing I will say about that is Dion always says, when people ask him, should I sell? And he talked about this in his last stream to some person, I'm not sure who it was. Should I sell the property? And he always answers, well, would you buy the equivalent to it across the street? And my answer is, in this case, no. No, I absolutely would not, because I bought the place for $65,750. And the place after I'm done will probably only be worth $100,000. And with improvements and everything else, I will probably end up sticking about $60,000 into it. Is it a cash cow in the aspect of it pay, like, as far as doing slow grade improvements over years to improve it in the sense of it pays for everything else? Like if I had to, suffer through it, yeah, it pays for 2 rental properties. But if I had to buy it again, knowing what all it needed into it, I probably wouldn't. I probably would have passed.
I think those are some of the things that your audience, all of our audiences need to hear is, how you managed to get through it, how horrible it was at the time, when you were looking at all the work that you had to do, and now a year or 2 later, it's cash flowing, and you can do the other repairs as time permits, I guess, or as your budget increases. That was one of the things that you mentioned earlier, about what keeps our head in the games. And something that helped us was having a ton of reserves, because we've been putting a lot of money into our properties over the last few months. And if we didn't have the reserves, we would have had to sell something or work, triple what we're working now and contribute our W-2 income to the properties to keep them going until they did become stabilized. So reserves have always been the most important thing for us to keep us in the game.
Yeah, definitely, and that's what I learned most about Butler Street, which I'll get on to more in the second round.
Yeah, so if we're going around again, I think part of the journey that was also a challenge when we first bought our first property, which was a triplex. I had my mother had a property in Texas, and she was using a property management company there, and they had done well for her there, and it's a franchise. So I looked up the same franchise in Kansas City, and I hired them to start managing our triplex, but didn't realize that they were pretty far. Kansas City is far away from our triplex in St. Joseph, Missouri, and they weren't showing the property regularly. They would only send people over there if they had other units to look at in the city. So that was not a great experience. We had them for about 6 months until we switched property managers. We found a really good one by chance, and we had to pay that mortgage for 6 months, So again, the reserves really helped us through that.
Yeah, for another fun round 2. I'm glad it's only round 2 because we could probably go a
One.
couple more rounds of the, yeah. But on the second one, since the first one was turnkey, actually the insurance was okay. But on the second one, it was a little bit beat up on the exterior. So when an agent had come out to look at it, there was a longer list than I had expected for repairs needed. And that's something that kind of threw me off, where we were when I was working with a contractor, we were running up against the insurance deadlines a lot, and it was pretty much the final day of it being canceled, and the contractor had to write a letter saying that he would do the repairs as soon as the weather cleared up. So they gave one more month from that contractor letter, and we were able to squeeze it out. But that was pretty stressful because I didn't want have to have mortgage place insurance on that. So it was a lot of juggling around, and I had to show up late a couple times for work. But in the end, it all kind of worked out, and now it's kind of stabilized, and that's the one that's kind of holding my portfolio together right now.
So you have one property holding your whole portfolio together, or
Yeah, that's the one. So have two currently, and the other one is going through a turnover because I had to do an eviction on that one.
okay, yeah, yeah. And I know that you've talked about it before on other podcasts, but do you mind giving us a real brief description on what's going on with the eviction?
Yeah, so that one we went through the process. That was about maybe about 2 months. Kind of the tenant didn't file for an appeal, so that actually made the timeline shorter. And once we gave her the 10 days to vacate, then contractor went in and gave a quote, and then now they're working on it, trying to get that turned. But the thing is, I'm kind of running up against the winter, so I'm probably worst case scenario, probably gonna hold that for an extended period of time. I'm thinking as a worst case scenario, so just kind of preparing for that. And Frankie is so right, just having reserves, that's that's helped me
Yeah.
out tremendously, just having that.
Yeah, so the one thing I wanted to bring up to you, Mikey, and honestly keep for the past 3 months I keep forgetting to bring it up, but since you said it, finally remembered with you in my face. I could actually remember to say this. The two best tenants that I have out of the initial four came from the month of December and January with a high credit score, because it's all because of people evicting other people, because in Pennsylvania and especially in Pittsburgh that you only have to give a 30-day notice or 60-day notice, depending on, to terminate the lease on when the sellers is. So I was able to pick up tenants that landlords were cutting the lease off on, that had like a 780, a 750 credit score, that is, way better than my personal credit score. And it's all because of Pittsburgh and how they regulate, how they terminate leases and stuff. So yeah, you may have to sit on it longer. I'll give them that. Like, I'll definitely agree with that 100%. But it's not uncommon to find a tenant that is looking for a place with a 700 credit score in the months of December, January, and February, which are like the worst months in Pittsburgh. I've actually been meaning to tell you that, but I keep forgetting.
No, I thank you. Like, I really appreciate that info. That gives me some hope. So any type of optimism, I'll cling on to because I really need it right now.
I'll sit on here and the sidelines for you, sitting here in pom poms and cheering you on if that's what it needs to take. But I'm not gonna sit here in a cheerleader's outfit if that's what you're asking.
No, thank you. Vice versa. Vice versa. I have my hula hoops. I have my hula skirts for Hawaii. So you got that. You got that.
So my second story is, and this tour of doom, which I'm gonna name it, um, is what I'm currently going through. Okay, so on Butler Street, or in Butler, whatever you want to call it. That's the nickname I gave that one. So it's a fourplex, more or less, that I bought, and I've underestimated the time. And this goes back to what Frank was saying about having your have the extra income, or the, you know to do things. I underestimated the amount of work that this place is gonna need. It needs a lot more work than I thought it's gonna need. It's probably gonna be about a 10 to 15K flip into the worst unit, which I thought originally was gonna be a 5K flip. And it's gotten to the point where I already moved in like probably 3/4 of my stuff into the unit that I was planning on living on. I'm actually planning on this week taking everything out, calling a mortgage company, telling them that things didn't work out. Here's the reasons why, blah 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 blah. And I'm planning on sinking in like 2 grand into that one to get it up and going because it will actually stop the bleeding so much because I can't keep affording to float a property that I'm sticking $1,200 into every month just for no results and nothing. Like I didn't mind doing it knowing what the cash flow overall was going to be, but it's getting to the point where I can't afford to keep floating it. And the only reason why I'm able to keep floating it is because of my overtime and my work and everything else. So with that being said, I'm probably going to rent out the unit I was supposed to live in, go ahead and call the mortgage company, tell them to send, you know, reconstruct everything. And I'm probably going to spend the rest of the money on the other unit that I was going to remodel and stuff and go from there. But yeah, I already made contacts, I already talked to people, and I'm gonna work a part-time job at the Sportsman's Club as a cook. I'm gonna do DoorDash, and I may even pick up something. I'm gonna do overtime as well, just to try and make ends meet and try to get that stuff done. And to be honest, in the 5 years of suck, I think it really depends on where you are in your timeline of everything that's going on. So with everything that's going on, and I'll explain this in the next pastor a little bit more, but everything happens for a reason. And the biggest thing I learned is your reserves have to match what you can do. And although I had reserves to match it, the previous thought out amount, you have to have reserves on top of the reserves. And there's just stuff that you can't see until you get into it. And you really have to study what you're doing. And you can't always trust a home inspector because they some people just don't know what they're doing. And it's getting to the point, honestly, where I've had 3 bad experiences in a row with home inspectors where I'm honestly thinking about doing more of the plumber comes in and does an inspection, and I have an electrician come in and do an inspection. And you know, it's getting to the point where I would rather, like Frank was saying in the last accountability meeting, I would rather pay each contractor $250 and know what I'm getting myself into and be out $750 than to have another bad home inspection that I'm out an extra 10K. Like that's kind of the point that I'm at, and that's why I'm picking up DoorDash and doing cooking at the Sportsman's Club and doing, picking up an extra shift every week just so I can try and make an extra 1K a year or month, or sorry, 1K a week to try and get this stuff going because I can't afford to keep forking out money for this for going in 1,200K a month on this stuff.
I think, was it Matt who brought that point up about hiring different contractors to come in and inspect things? I thought that was a great tip. Because if you think about it, if you hire 3 different contractors, whether it's plumbing, electrical, and someone to actually look at the building, if that's going to cost you $750, our inspections are $700 through a home inspection company, and that doesn't include the sewer scope. But with the sewer scope, it's $900 or something like that.
Yeah, and that's the thing that kind of makes me feel worse about the whole situation is that I have connections to the area that would literally come in, like the plumber, for example, that would literally charge me $40 just for a sewer scope and do the rest of the inspection for free. I've done so much work with them in the past. And I'm getting to the point where it's just like me not taking advantage of the connections that I have. Your net worth is your net worth. It is truly a true statement. And I've gotten to the point where I finally wrap my head around the fact that I don't need home inspectors because I always get screwed over by them. So I'm kind of at the point where I would rather just go with either plumbers, electricians, general contractors on stuff than dealing with a home inspector who may have just sat in the weekend of school or whatever they do, trying to, start this side business hustle thing for them, but they have no knowledge in the industry.
We kind of talked about before too that I think thankfully we were already investing again on the second round a couple of years before the 5 years of stuff started being the thing, right? We hadn't heard that at all before. And I told Dion, if we had heard that before we got started, we might not have gotten started, because if it's, if it's going to be 5 years like that, why bother? But thankfully we had already been in it for a couple of years and we were underway and we could see the benefits. So it didn't discourage us at that point. But if we had heard it before we bought anything, it might have turned out different.
So even though we do talk about being in the suck right now, you know, just getting that first paycheck, well, rent check, I'm sorry, just getting that first rent check was such an unreal experience where I remember this so clearly. I was on a neighboring island. I was wrenching on this water system and I was sweating because it was just such a hot day, and I was just kind of like dreading because I had such a long day after that. And then I all of a sudden I get this email and then I look at it. Oh, the rent has, is coming in. And my eyes just opened. I kind of had to take a break and just kind of soak it all in, like, wow, this is what it can be. And just having that experience of the two properties having rental income, it was such a life changer because, that amount is what I would do working overtime, where it's like you just have that asset funneling you money instead of having, your blood, sweat, and tears getting that same amount. So there is no doubt in my mind that if we just continue on, even though it's hard right now, we just give it compounding time, we're gonna see the rewards, and we're gonna look back. This when this video comes out, maybe one day, 5 years from now, we'll look back on this and just laugh because it'll all have been worth it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that 100%. I think, especially with channels like mine where we're just recording the good, the bad, the ugly, it's a reminder of in the future what all you went through and how you had to handle it, and just what all the blood, sweat, and beers that you had to do in order to get through all this. So, since Mikey, there's a chance you may or may not be with us here quickly, do you want to take first shot at when you see the 5 years end?
I hope maybe 2028.
Okay. And why is that?
Because I started last year, so I'm hoping, if I just stay diligent, I'm not too good at math either, so double check my math on that. But I'm just hoping 2028 will be, at least I'll have that 5 years of compounding. And I've been kind of tracking it. It's like I'm kind of 8, 9 months. It's like another purchase. I don't know if I'll continue doing that, but I just hope I can get at least one a year is my goal. So, 5 years down the line, see what happens. I don't know where I would be number wise, but I just hope, maybe binder strategizing and stabilizing, optimizing, doing those different type of things, I can get a somewhat decent return.
All right. So on the plus note, after everything that we've been through and everything we're going through, and I'm hoping to pay off half of my bad debt in 2025 and the other half in 2026. And I seriously think that Cynthia's financial independence will be less than 3 years, which I think she finally found a job that she's happy with, in which once you're financially independent, you can work jobs that you like versus jobs that you have to. So, with all that being said, sorry. With all that being said, then we could probably actually retire 2 years after that with the extra income, because I'm planning on every year after that being able to buy an extra rental property that we couldn't buy the previous year before that. So Frank, do you want to talk about the train line at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah, like you were saying, I think for us, we're at 10 doors and we're going through the couple of evictions and filling a few units. As soon as we get all that filled, I think things will start working out very well. And I think within 4 years total, we could see a major improvement in our lives. You know, my Cynthia is going to be retiring after this year, and we're kind of like whatever our portfolio is doing at the time is what we're going to get. So we're going to be testing it sooner than I had hoped, but I think it's going to be much better than the future we would have had if we hadn't started investing.
All right. So on the plus note, after everything that we've been through and everything we're going through, and I'm hoping to pay off half of my bad debt in 2025 and the other half in 2026. And I seriously think that Cynthia's financial independence will be less than 3 years, which I think she finally found a job that she's happy with, in which once you're financially independent, you can work jobs that you like versus jobs that you have to. So, with all that being said, sorry. With all that being said, then we could probably actually retire 2 years after that with the extra income, because I'm planning on every year after that being able to buy an extra rental property that we couldn't buy the previous year before that. So Frank, do you want to talk about the train line at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah, like you were saying, I think for us, we're at 10 doors and we're going through the couple of evictions and filling a few units. As soon as we get all that filled, I think things will start working out very well. And I think within 4 years total, we could see a major improvement in our lives. You know, my Cynthia is going to be retiring after this year, and we're kind of like whatever our portfolio is doing at the time is what we're going to get. So we're going to be testing it sooner than I had hoped, but I think it's going to be much better than the future we would have had if we hadn't started investing.
I'll be honest, I'm so glad that you guys have started talking and sharing your experiences on YouTube and stuff, because Frank, I don't realize how much of an impact you're leaving on the community, and just how much of you give inspiration where people don't have any, or they're getting themselves up into a bind. And I'll use myself in this aspect, where there's been times where I've not known what to do, or I just felt like I'm hitting a wall. And it's coincidental that you'll pump out a video later that week that talks about the same things I'm thinking about in my mind. So I'll be honest, if you ever stop making YouTube content at this point, I would actually be very sad about that. And you really need to start or to keep doing your content because it's something I actually really look forward to every week.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I was wondering, what did we have to offer? But even if it's just talking about the lessons learned and mistakes made, it might save someone else from making that kind of mistake. In the beginning, and shave a little bit of time, like you said, shave a little bit of time off the 5 years of sucking. So thanks for that. I appreciate it. And every once in a while, people will reach out, and whether it's to get advice on a project that they're doing, because we've been remodeling homes for quite some time now. We've seen a lot, we've done a lot, and I'm super happy when people call in or write in with questions. So I hope that continues. That's a really good feeling.
I really don't think you should ever minimize what you bring to the community, Frank, because honestly, the types of stuff, the mindset and everything you bring to the community is completely different than everyone else. And even like the person you would be competing with is Matt the Lumberjack Landlord.
I just want to echo what you were saying about Frank too, because when I got started, I was watching all the Dion's content, and I saw that Dion, he did that interview with Frank. And the moment that video ended, I was trying to look through the comments to figure out how I can reach Frank. And luckily, someone had asked for Frank's email, and Dion had posted it in the comments. So I think once I saw that, I sent him an email, then we started talking, but it was so difficult being alone because it's like, you're trying to figure stuff out, but the more people you can get connected with and talk with, the better you're going to be because there's that camaraderie involved with it. And Frank has 3 decades of GC knowledge, and he's actually a great teacher on top of that. A lot of people will have that knowledge but won't be able to teach it. But Frank has both of those skills, which makes it incredible for me just as a beginner, where if I have questions, I know I'm getting, a real honest perspective on that. And like I had just watched an all-nighter hider video, and Frank, Old Guy REI, was one of the videos that All Nighter Hider mentioned, along with Financial Firefighter and UE and all the greats. So it's just kind of showing, more and more people, the more you post content, it's just going to start growing.
Yeah, seriously, Frank, everyone has talked about you. I think if something ever happened to your YouTube channel, that I think it would be a devastating loss in the whole community. Like your impact, although you may not be like the top 3 within the community that's always on every single video, your lasting impression and your willingness to help people and just the way you are as a person is what really sets this community. It's really what this community is about and what everyone strives to try and be. Like you're honestly part of the epitome of what this community is really about.
That's really kind of you to say. One thought I had about creating content, and it is a little bit challenging at times, but I think a lot of what people have found useful is when we're on a project and we're showing how we're doing things. And that just made me think that if I want to keep putting out content like that, I'm going to have to work for a few more years. And I don't know about that. So, but we're trying to post as much as we can while we're still doing it. So hopefully it's helping.
Would you say that your team Dion or team Matt?
For me, I would have to lean towards Dion. I love what I do. And if I had the opportunity to travel to our properties and do the work myself, that would be a dream. But it's not really feasible because my cousins worked with me for like 25 years. We were a team, but he can't travel like that. So, and I can't do it by myself. But I don't think I would really get that much out of going there and being the general contractor. I would get more out of being there and doing the actual work.
Okay. So, Mikey, I think I can kind of predict this answer from you too. But Team Dion, Team Matt.
Oh, that's unfair. But no, I could go by percentages. Like Dion is majority percentage for sure. But and even Dion has says this. He takes stuff from Matt as well. And then that's what I want to try to do. I'm Japanese, so we love to copy. So I just try to copy all the great investors and little pieces that I can morph into my own investing style.
All right, so I'll end this. I agree with you, Mikey, 100%. There's something you have to take from everyone. Someone told me, believe it or not, it's probably the best advice I ever got from a drunken person in a bar. Um, there's a there's one bit of advice that is positive that you can use to influence your own life in a positive way. Every person has that. Now, with that being said, I feel like everyone in the ORAC community is so super positive and so super supportive. And there's so many things you can take on to apply to your own investing lifestyle.
I think we're lucky, like you said, to be part of the community. And just to reiterate what you said before, everybody's so giving. I think there's not really, or I haven't seen any real competition between people, right? Any of the investors in our groups. And like Mikey mentioned before on our Wednesday calls, our Zoom calls, everybody just wants to participate, give suggestions if anybody has a question, and they're not keeping their resources to themselves. Real estate agents, insurance agents, property managers, contractors that they've had the opportunity to work with, they're sharing all that stuff. And that's really rare in the real world outside of investing. You don't see that too much. Everybody's too into themselves and their goals, and they think somebody else is going to take something from them if they get the chance. But Zuber's created something really cool.
Yeah, he's definitely created something super special. And I think this is just my opinion, but I think with this school community and with everything that's going on, I think he's actually successfully done it where he's going to create something that succeeds him by his 50-year goal.
Yeah, I
Mikey?
agree, because we're all going to carry that forward.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, we're all going to carry that forward with future generations and stuff. And I think as long as you have us and the next generation, people will still be talking about ORAT and just all the information that we had to pertain to go into it. Now, the following generation, I can't say for sure.
Yeah, and this was a great discussion about the 5 years of suck. I'm so glad that the REI Avengers talk about that and repeatedly talk about that. Because sometimes it doesn't make sense the first time I hear it, but as they mention it, things over and over again, and as you're in that growth mode, maybe that third time you hear 5 years of suck, then it clicks in your mind. So for us, being able to share maybe 1.5 year to 3 years to 5 years, I think it's a good representation of, we're still optimistic, even though we're all going through challenges. And as long as we have all these resources, like the meetings and the community, I don't think, even though it might feel like we're failing now, I think in the long run, we're all going to be successful. I don't see any way we can't be, because we're just so diligent and we're just so positive and growth oriented. I just don't see us falling too far. It's going to be a hockey stick. Was talking to Frank about this. It's going to be like a hockey stick rise, I think. We just give it time.
So I'll end this with this closing thought, because you just reminded me of it. Even though it looks like we're failing now, it's the fact that we're more aware of our surroundings and what to look for, and we're learning from our experiences, and we're learning from what we've done in the past, in the future, and we're looking towards other people that may have who in a better and different mindset of different people that have done what we're trying to do, and it better prepares us for us in the future.
Oh, just thanks for putting this together. We appreciate you going over this. And like you just mentioned it, the video is going to help people, understand that there are challenges and that we are working our way through them. And it'll be nice to come back in a year or something and see where we're at.
With all that being said, thank you for tuning into this episode of Jack's Business Talk. If you like this type of goofy, backwards content that helps push you forward, please subscribe to this content.